The laser blast tore through Private Chen's left arm like paper, leaving nothing but a smoking stump below the shoulder. Blood sprayed across the rocky terrain of Planet X-227, staining the purple soil a dark crimson. The alien Marines from 5 different species watched in horror, their compound eyes widening and tentacles curling in shock. But Chen didn't fall. "Keep pushing forward," he shouted, his remaining hand gripping his plasma rifle tighter. The wound had already started cauterizing from the heat of the laser blast. "We can't let them reach the civilian settlement." Captain KZZK of the Arthropodian Guard clicked his mandibles in disbelief. In his 300 cycles of combat experience, he had never seen anything like this. Any reasonable soldier would be in shock, screaming in pain, or unconscious. But this human, this impossible human, was still fighting. "By the Great Hive," whispered Lieutenant Mrax, his crystalline form shimmering with amazement. "How is he still standing?" Chen's answer came in the form of precise bursts from his rifle, taking down 3 enemy drones that had been advancing on their position. His accuracy hadn't diminished despite the grievous injury. If anything, he seemed more focused, more determined. "Sir," Chen called out to Captain KZZK, his voice steady despite the sweat pouring down his face, "their left flank is exposed. If we concentrate our fire there, we can break their formation." The enemy forces, cybernetic warriors from the Mechanoid Collective, had expected the Joint Defense Force to crumble after their initial assault. They hadn't counted on human tenacity. They certainly hadn't expected their supposedly devastating first strike to fail so completely. Chen's boots dug into the purple soil as he advanced, leading the charge. The alien Marines, inspired by his unbelievable courage, followed. Their combined firepower tore into the mechanoid ranks exactly where Chen had indicated. "Impossible," the mechanoid commander's robotic voice crackled across the battlefield. "Human combat effectiveness calculated at 0% after limb removal. Does not compute. Does not compute." But Chen and his unlikely band of alien comrades were already proving those calculations wrong. Very, very wrong. As the mechanoid line began to break, Captain KZZK realized he was witnessing something that would change galactic military doctrine forever. The humans weren't just soldiers from a high-gravity death world, they were something else entirely. Something that defied all rational explanation. And this was just the beginning. 6 months earlier, the massive Galactic Federation ship cast a shadow over the United Nations building in New York. The delegates inside, representing every nation on Earth, sat in stunned silence as Admiral Elax, a towering being with iridescent scales, concluded humanity's assessment. "Your species evolved on what we classify as a Class 12 death world," the Admiral's translator conveyed. "The gravity, atmospheric pressure, temperature extremes, and prevalence of predatory species make Earth one of the most hostile habitable planets we've encountered. The fact that humans not only survived but built a civilization here is remarkable." The room erupted in murmurs. Dr. Patel, Earth's chief negotiator, adjusted her glasses. "And this classification affects our potential membership in the Federation how, exactly?" A holographic display appeared, showing various alien species. Most spacefaring races evolved on worlds with gravity ranging from 0.3 to 0.7 of Earth standard. Their bodies are more fragile. Your natural strength and endurance exceed our military elite. This presents both opportunities and concerns. Concerns? Dr. Patel raised an eyebrow. Some council members worry that humans might be too aggressive. Too resilient. Too unpredictable. Admiral Elax's scales shifted color slightly. However, others see potential. "We face growing threats from the Mechanoid Collective. Their cybernetic armies expand constantly, assimilating or destroying everything in their path." The hologram shifted to show mechanical beings attacking various worlds. We propose a joint military program. Human soldiers serving alongside Federation Marines. Your physical capabilities combined with our technology could turn the tide of this war. Dr. Patel glanced at the military advisors nearby. General Wu nodded slightly. There are conditions, Admiral Elax continued. Any human participants must undergo extensive psychological evaluation. We need to be certain they can control their impressive capabilities. We're looking for defenders, not berserkers. The discussion continued for hours. Questions about technology sharing, command structure, and jurisdiction were debated. But everyone felt the weight of the moment, humanity's first steps into a larger universe. Within weeks, recruitment began. Veterans and active service members from armies worldwide volunteered. Among them was James Chen, a former combat medic whose service record showed exceptional grace under pressure. The aliens were fascinated by human medical records. The concept of someone surviving severe trauma through sheer determination confused them. Their medical officer, Dr. Rix, spent hours studying human healing capabilities. Your species can lose significant blood volume and continue functioning, they noted while reviewing Chen's group. You can survive the loss of limbs, organs, and continue fighting. Your pain tolerance exceeds our understanding. How do you not go insane from such experiences? Chen, sitting through yet another medical examination, shrugged. We adapt. It's what humans do. The first joint training sessions revealed more surprises. Humans could operate effectively in environments that left other species exhausted. They recovered from injuries faster, needed less rest, and showed remarkable problem-solving skills under pressure. But it wasn't just physical abilities that impressed the Federation. It was humanity's spirit of cooperation, their ability to work with wildly different species, and their unwavering determination to protect others. As the training program concluded, Admiral Elax addressed the first graduating class of Human-Alien Joint Forces. Together, we are stronger. The Mechanoid Collective believes they can calculate every outcome, predict every response. But they have never encountered humans before. They don't understand that some things cannot be reduced to mere numbers and probabilities. The training facility on Jupiter's moon Europa buzzed with activity. Inside the pressurized dome, human and alien soldiers learned to work as one unit. The artificial gravity could be adjusted to simulate different worlds, but today it was set to Earth standard, much to the discomfort of the alien trainees. Chen watched as his new squad mate, Lex, a serpentine being from a low-gravity world, struggled to lift the standard-issue Federation rifle. Without hesitation, Chen stepped forward. Try holding it like this, he demonstrated, adjusting Lex's grip. Use your body's natural movement to manage the weight. That's it. Relex's eyes blinked in their vertical pattern, their species' way of showing gratitude. The strength you humans possess, it's remarkable. Yet you show such patience in teaching us. Across the training hall, Sergeant Lee was running the obstacle course alongside KZZK, who would later become their captain. The Arthropodian warrior had initially doubted that any species could match his people's agility. Now he watched in amazement as Lee navigated the course with fluid grace. Your movements, KZZK clicked, mandibles twitching with curiosity. They waste no energy. How did your species develop such efficiency? Lee wiped sweat from her brow. Thousands of years of martial arts, dancing, sports. When you live on a high-gravity world, you learn to make every motion count. The training wasn't just about physical skills. Cultural exchange sessions filled their evenings. Humans learned about the complex honor codes of the crystalline Mrax people, while aliens discovered the human concepts of friendship and camaraderie. During one such session, Dr. Rix presented footage from Earth's military history. The aliens watched in stunned silence as humans displayed their legendary resilience, soldiers carrying wounded comrades for miles, medics working under fire, civilians helping each other during disasters. "This is why we need you," Zrix explained. "The mechanoids believe they can break any species through calculated violence. But they've never encountered beings who grow stronger through adversity." Warning sirens interrupted the session. A training exercise was about to begin, simulated combat against mechanoid drones. The mixed squad moved with practiced precision, each member complementing the other's strengths. Chen's medical knowledge proved invaluable. He could treat injuries on any species, understanding both their alien physiology and their psychological needs. His gentle touch and calm demeanor earned him the nickname "Healer" among the alien troops. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Cultural misunderstandings led to tense moments. An innocent human gesture could be a grave insult to one species. What seemed like aggression to aliens was often just human enthusiasm. During one particularly challenging exercise, their dropship crashed in Europa's icy wasteland. The heating systems failed, and the alien marines began to suffer in the extreme cold. Without hesitation, the human soldiers shared their body heat, teaching their alien comrades survival techniques developed on Earth's harshest environments. "Why risk your own safety for others?" asked a shivering Relax. "Because that's what teammates do," Chen replied, helping to set up an emergency shelter. "We're stronger together than alone." As weeks turned into months, the joint force became more than just a military unit. They became a family. Each species brought unique perspectives and abilities. The humans' adaptability and determination inspired their alien counterparts to push beyond their own limitations. But dark news kept arriving from the frontier. The mechanoid collective was advancing, their armies growing stronger. Federation analysts predicted they would strike a major target soon. Nobody knew that their graduation ceremony would be interrupted by the very enemy they had trained to fight. The real test was coming sooner than anyone expected. The emergency alert blared through Europa base at 0300 Earth Standard Time. Chen jolted awake in his bunk, already reaching for his gear before his mind fully registered the situation. "All units report to Command Center immediately," the AI's calm voice announced. "This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." The Command Center's massive screen showed a terrifying sight. 3 Federation colony worlds had gone dark simultaneously. No communications, no distress signals, just silence. The mechanoid collective had finally made their move. Admiral Elax's scales had turned a pale gray, a sign of extreme distress. The attack pattern makes no logical sense. They bypassed our defensive lines, ignored strategic military targets, and struck civilian populations first. "It makes perfect sense," Chen spoke up, surprising even himself. All eyes in the room turned to him. "They're not just attacking bodies. They're attacking hope. Break the civilian spirit, and the military's will to fight crumbles." Captain KZZK clicked in agreement. "The human understands. This is psychological warfare." The next hours brought more grim news. Surveillance drones finally reached the colonies. The footage showed cities transformed into processing centers. Civilians were being converted into cyborg troops, forcibly enhanced with mechanoid technology. "By the Great Hive," Lex whispered, their scales shuddering. "How do we fight an enemy that turns our own people against us?" "We've faced similar horrors on Earth," Sergeant Lee said quietly. "The worst atrocities often come from those who deny others their humanity, or in this case, their very essence of being." The Federation Council debated for precious hours while more colonies fell silent. The joint human-alien force watched in frustration as politicians argued about jurisdiction and protocol. Finally, Admiral Elax made an unprecedented decision. "We're deploying the joint force immediately. To hell with proper authorization." Their ship, the Star Dancer, prepared for immediate departure. As they loaded equipment, Chen noticed Dr. Zrix analyzing battle footage from the fallen colonies. The mechanoids' tactics show no innovation, Zrix noted. They rely entirely on overwhelming force and predictable patterns. Their greatest weakness might be their inability to adapt. Then we'll make them face something they can't predict, Chen replied, checking his medical supplies. Human unpredictability combined with alien wisdom. They won't know what hit them. The Star Dancer carried an unusual cargo, hope. The first true joint force of humans and aliens, trained together, ready to fight as one. But as they approached the combat zone, even the bravest hearts felt fear. The ship's AI calculated a 12.3% chance of survival for their mission. When Captain KZZK announced this, the alien troops fell silent. But the humans smiled. "Never tell me the odds," Chen quoted an old Earth movie, lightening the mood. "Besides, humans have been beating impossible odds since we first crawled out of our caves." As they prepared for their first real combat drop, Admiral Elax addressed the troops one final time. The mechanoids believe they can calculate everything. They think they know every possible outcome. But they've never faced humans fighting alongside Federation forces. Show them what happens when determination meets destiny. The red light flashed. Drop pods prepared to launch. Nobody knew it then, but this mission would become legend, not for its success or failure, but for what it would reveal about the true strength of unity in diversity. The drop pods punched through the atmosphere of colony world Draxa 7, their heat shields glowing orange against the purple sky. Inside his pod, Chen checked his gear one final time while monitoring his squadmates' vital signs on his heads-up display. "Remember your training," Captain KZZK's voice crackled over the comm, "humans up front as shock troops. Mrax crystals for long-range support. Relax units for infiltration. We hit them hard, we hit them fast." The impact rattled Chen's teeth. As soon as the pod doors blew open, the reality of what they faced hit harder than the landing. The once beautiful crystal cities of Draxa 7 had been transformed into something out of a nightmare. Mechanoid conversion centers rose like black towers, connected by pulsing energy lines. "Movement at 2 o'clock, Sergeant Lee called out. Large group of hostiles. They got their first look at what the mechanoids had done to the colonists. Former Federation citizens, now more machine than organic, marched in perfect formation. Their movements were unnaturally precise, synchronized like parts of a single machine. "Those are still people in there," Chen reminded everyone. "Set weapons to stun where possible. We're here to save them, not destroy them." The first engagement was brutal. The mechanoid-controlled cyborgs felt no pain, no fear. They kept advancing despite injuries that would stop any normal being. But they also had a critical weakness: they couldn't adapt to the unpredictable. Chen and the human soldiers charged straight into the enemy lines, their earth-born strength letting them break through the formation. The aliens watched in amazement as their human companions shrugged off hits that would have dropped any Federation soldier. "Push forward," Chen shouted, providing covering fire while Relex's infiltration team slipped behind enemy lines. "Don't let them regroup." The Mrax crystalline soldiers took up elevated positions, their bodies refracting energy weapons into devastating prismatic attacks. Captain KZZK's Arthropodian warriors moved with impossible speed, their natural armor deflecting mechanoid fire. But the enemy adapted quickly. New tactics emerged from their hive mind. Energy shields sprang up, cutting off Chen's squad from the rest of the unit. They were surrounded. "Analysis indicates 98.7% probability of your defeat," the mechanoid commander's robotic voice echoed. "Surrender is the logical choice." Chen looked at his trapped squad mates, beings from across the galaxy who had trained together, eaten together, become family. "What do you say we show them why you don't calculate probability against humans?" What followed would be talked about in Federation bars for years to come. How a human medic led a mixed squad of aliens in an impossible fight. How they used the environment, their different abilities, and pure unpredictability to survive. The tide turned when Relex's team managed to hack into a conversion center's controls, freeing dozens of captured colonists. The newly liberated citizens, though traumatized, joined the fight against their former captors. As the battle for Draxa 7 raged on, news came in from other worlds. Similar joint forces were engaging the mechanoids across Federation space. Some succeeded. Others failed. But everywhere, the enemy was learning a harsh lesson about underestimating organic life. Hours later, as medical ships arrived to treat the wounded and rescue the freed colonists, Chen sat treating a young alien child who had been partially converted. As he worked to stabilize the little one's vital signs, Captain KZZK approached. The Federation Council said this force was an experiment. The captain clicked softly. They were wrong. This isn't an experiment. This is the future. But as they watched more mechanoid ships appear in the planet's orbit, everyone knew, this was just the beginning. The real test of their unity was still to come. 3 days after the Battle of Draxa 7, the Star Dancer received urgent orders. A massive mechanoid fleet was heading toward Haven, the Federation's largest refugee center. 2 million civilians from dozens of species had found shelter there. If Haven fell, the psychological blow to the Federation would be devastating. "They're forcing our hand," Admiral Elax explained during the briefing. "Our main fleet is tied up defending core worlds. We're all that stands between those refugees and the mechanoids." The ship's holographic display showed the odds: 5 mechanoid capital ships against their single vessel and Haven's minimal defenses. Chen noticed how his alien comrade's shoulders slumped at the numbers. "Look," Chen spoke up, "back on Earth, there's this old story about 300 soldiers who held off an army of thousands. Sometimes it's not about the numbers. It's about where you make your stand." They had 6 hours to prepare Haven's defenses. Chen worked with local medical teams, setting up emergency stations while other teams laid traps and fortified positions. The human soldiers shared Earth tactics for urban warfare, teaching the locals how to use their environment as a weapon. When the first mechanoid drop ships pierced Haven's atmosphere, they found no easy target. Every street had become a potential ambush point. Every building held surprises. The joint force had learned from Draxa 7, they wouldn't fight the mechanoids on their terms. "Sector 3 is being overrun," Lex's voice crackled over the comm, "they're pushing toward the civilian bunkers." Chen's team was closest. Without hesitation, they rushed to intercept. The scene they found was chaos, mechanoid forces advancing while refugee families fled toward the safety bunkers. "We hold here," Chen ordered, setting up a defensive line. "No matter what, they don't get past us." What followed was 3 hours of hell. The mechanoid sent wave after wave of cyborg troops. Chen's team held their ground, protecting the evacuation route. Every time they seemed about to break, someone would find a deeper reserve of strength. Then came the moment that changed everything. A mechanoid heavy walker burst through a building, its weapons targeting a group of children who had become separated from the evacuation. Chen didn't think. He just moved. The blast that took his arm also knocked out the walker's main gun. As his squad mates watched in horror, Chen not only stayed conscious but managed to throw a plasma grenade into the walker's exposed systems with his remaining arm. "How?" The mechanoid commander's voice held something new: confusion. Damage of this magnitude should incapacitate any organic being. Chen's response was to coordinate a counterattack, even as medics tried to treat him. His determination sparked something in both his fellow soldiers and the refugees. Stories spread quickly through Haven's defenders, tales of the human who lost an arm but kept fighting. The mechanoids had calculated for every reasonable response to their attack. But they hadn't calculated for human stubbornness, for the infectious nature of courage, for the strength that comes from protecting others. By the time Federation reinforcements arrived, Haven's defenders had destroyed 3 mechanoid capital ships and held off their ground forces. The remaining enemy vessels retreated, their combat algorithms unable to process what had happened. In the aftermath, as Chen finally allowed himself to be properly treated, Admiral Elax visited him in the medical bay. "You've done more than save Haven," the Admiral said quietly. "You've shown everyone in the Federation what's possible when we stand together. The mechanoids thought attacking Haven would break our spirit. Instead, you've given hope to every world in the Federation." 1 month after the Battle of Haven, Chen stood at the window of the Federation's orbital rehabilitation station, watching ships come and go. His new prosthetic arm gleamed in the starlight, a marvel of Federation technology combined with human design principles. The medical bay was filled with soldiers from every species, all recovering from the recent battles. Doctors Rix moved from bed to bed, studying how different species healed, paying special attention to the humans' remarkable recovery rates. "Your tissue regeneration continues to amaze me," Zrik said, examining Chen's shoulder where the prosthetic connected. "Most species would still be in critical care after such trauma. Yet here you are, already adapting to the new limb." But Chen's thoughts were elsewhere. Reports from the frontier grew worse each day. The mechanoids had gone quiet after Haven, not retreating, but regrouping. Intelligence suggested they were upgrading their forces based on what they'd learned. Captain KZZK visited regularly, bringing updates from command. Today, he found Chen in the physical therapy area, helping other wounded soldiers with their exercises. "Still taking care of others when you should be resting," KZZK clicked, mandibles twitching in what Chen now recognized as affection. "The Federation Council has been studying the Haven defense recordings. They're implementing new strategies based on what we learned." Chen helped a young Mrak soldier with his balance exercises while responding. "The mechanoids will adapt too. They're learning from every engagement. Next time they won't underestimate us." The station's observation deck became a meeting point for recovering soldiers. They shared stories, taught each other their species games, and planned for the battles ahead. Chen noticed how the divisions between species had faded. Shared combat and recovery had forged bonds stronger than any differences. Admiral Elax called a briefing 2 weeks later. The recovered soldiers gathered, some still bearing visible wounds, others sporting new prosthetics like Chen's. "The mechanoids are building something big," the Admiral's scales shifted to warning colors as he spoke. "Our deep space probes have detected massive construction facilities beyond the outer rim. Whatever they're planning, it will be unlike anything we've faced before." The room erupted in discussion. The crystalline Mraks suggested defensive strategies. Relex's people proposed infiltration missions. Human soldiers offered lessons from Earth's history of asymmetric warfare. Chen listened to it all, absently flexing his new arm. The prosthetic was better than his original in many ways, stronger, more precise. But it had taken time to accept it, to understand that change didn't mean loss. "Maybe that's what the mechanoids don't understand," he said suddenly, drawing everyone's attention. "They see organic life as inefficient, flawed. But our ability to adapt, to survive change, to grow stronger from damage, that's not a flaw. It's our greatest strength." The next weeks were filled with intense training. Recovered soldiers taught new recruits what they'd learned. Federation scientists developed weapons and tactics based on Haven's success. Human military historians shared Earth's long experience with fighting against overwhelming odds. Chen threw himself into preparation, working with both veterans and fresh troops. His experience as both a medic and a frontline soldier proved invaluable in training the new joint forces. But in quiet moments, watching the stars, he couldn't shake the feeling that their next encounter with the mechanoids would test them in ways they couldn't imagine. The question wasn't if they would face this test, but when? The answer came sooner than anyone expected. Just as Chen was cleared for full duty, the emergency alarms sounded throughout the station. The mechanoids had emerged from the outer rim, with a force that dwarfed anything previously seen. The Federation fleet gathered at the edge of the Orion Arm, the largest assembly of ships in known history. Every surviving vessel, from mighty battleships to civilian craft converted for war, formed a last line of defense. The Star Dancer held position near the front, its crew watching as the massive mechanoid armada approached. Through the bridge viewport, Chen saw what the enemy had been building, a planet-sized conversion ship, its surface crawling with smaller vessels like insects on a metal hive. The sight made even the bravest aliens aboard shudder. Their new flagship can convert an entire world in hours, Admiral Elax announced grimly. If it reaches any populated system, we'll lose millions before we can evacuate. Captain KZZK assembled the Joint Strike Team in the Star Dancer's briefing room. The plan was desperate. While the main fleet engaged the mechanoid armada, small teams would attempt to infiltrate the conversion ship. Intelligence suggests 3 critical points, KZZK clicked, his mandibles twitching nervously. Hit all 3 simultaneously, and the chain reaction should destroy the ship. But he paused. The calculations show near zero survival probability for the strike teams. Chen looked around the room at his companions, Relax, coiled in thought, the crystalline Rax troops glowing with determination, his fellow humans checking their gear. None showed fear. The mechanoids think organics fear death above all, Chen said, adjusting his prosthetic arm. Another thing they got wrong. The battle began with a fury that turned space itself into fire. Federation ships clashed with mechanoid vessels, energy weapons and kinetic rounds creating a deadly light show. Through this chaos, 3 stealth shuttles slipped toward the conversion ship. Chen's team reached their entry point first. The ship's interior was a nightmare of efficiency, every surface designed to process organic life into mechanical parts. They encountered cyborg patrols, each stronger than the last, as the ship's AI adapted to their presence. Team 2 is down, Lex reported over the comm, but they reached their target. Team 3 is still moving. They fought their way through corridors that shifted and changed, the ship trying to trap them. Chen's human strength and his alien companions' unique abilities kept them alive, but casualties mounted. Each loss felt like a knife in Chen's heart. These weren't just fellow soldiers anymore, they were family. When they finally reached their target, the ship's main power core, they found something unexpected. The mechanoid commander wasn't a machine, but a cyborg who still retained traces of organic form. "Why do you resist perfection?" it asked, its voice a disturbing mix of organic and synthetic. "We offer immortality, freedom from pain, from death." "You offer existence without life," Chen replied, readying his weapon. "Everything that makes us who we are, our ability to feel, to change, to love, you strip it all away." The ensuing fight pushed them beyond any training. The commander's enhanced body could match human strength, could counter alien abilities. But it couldn't match their teamwork, their willingness to sacrifice for each other. As Chen set the final charges, a blast caught him in the chest. Through blurring vision, he saw Relax take a fatal hit protecting him. The few surviving team members carried him back toward their shuttle. "Team 3 is successful," the comm crackled. "All charges set." The conversion ship's interior began to break apart as they raced back through its corridors. Chen, barely conscious, heard the ship's AI announcing increasing chances of failure, its certainty crumbling as organic unpredictability once again defied its calculations. They barely cleared the blast radius when the charges detonated. The massive ship's destruction took half the mechanoid fleet with it. The rest, suddenly cut off from their command node, fell into disarray. As medical ships picked up survivors, Chen watched the battle's end from a stretcher. Federation vessels were pursuing the retreating mechanoids, but his thoughts were with those who hadn't made it back. They had won, but the cost had been enormous. Yet as he looked at his human and alien companions, he knew they had gained something too, proof that together, they could face any challenge the galaxy threw at them. 10 years after the Great Battle, Chen stood before a gathering of Federation cadets at the new Joint Forces Academy on Europa. His prosthetic arm, now worn with pride, gestured toward the memorial wall where names from a dozen species were engraved in their native scripts. "They call this the Victory Wall," he said, his voice carrying years of experience. "But that's not quite right. This is a testament to unity, to what we can achieve when we stop seeing our differences as barriers and start seeing them as strengths." The cadets, a mix of humans and aliens, listened intently. Among them sat children of those who had fought in the war, including Relex's youngest offspring, now training to become a medical officer. "The mechanoids made a fundamental mistake," Chen continued, running his hand along the wall. "They saw organic life as chaotic, inefficient, flawed. They thought replacing emotion with logic would make us perfect. But our supposed flaws, our ability to feel pain, to suffer loss, to face death, these are what make us strong." The Academy itself stood as a symbol of change. Humans trained alongside beings from across the galaxy, each learning from the other's strengths. The Federation had evolved, becoming something greater than the sum of its parts. Admiral Elax, now showing the pearl-white scales of advanced age, joined Chen at the podium. "When we first encountered humans, we classified them as Deathworlders, dangerous, unpredictable beings who had somehow survived on a hostile planet. We thought we were being scientific. Instead, we were letting our fears blind us to possibilities." Chen watched as a group of cadets demonstrated their latest training exercise, humans providing the physical strength while Crystalline Rack's troops coordinated with telepathic species for perfect tactical awareness. They moved like one unit, despite their different forms. The real victory wasn't destroying the conversion ship, Chen told them. It was proving that our differences make us stronger. Every species brings something unique to the table. Humans brought determination and adaptability. Others brought wisdom, technology, special abilities. Together, we became something the mechanoids couldn't calculate, couldn't predict. After the ceremony, Chen visited the medical wing where he had once recovered. Now it was a research center where Federation scientists studied how different species healed, adapting the best traits of each to help others. His old friend Dr. Zrix led the project, still fascinated by humanity's resilience. "You know what the mechanoids never understood?" Chen asked a young cadet who'd stayed behind to talk. "They saw scars as imperfections. But scars tell our stories. They prove we can survive, adapt, grow stronger. Every scar, every loss, every hardship, they're not weaknesses. They're medals of honor in the great battle of life." As he looked out at Europa's icy surface, Chen thought about all they'd lost and gained. The Federation had changed. Humanity had changed. But most importantly, they'd all learned that the universe's greatest strength lay not in perfect efficiency or cold logic, but in the beautiful chaos of different beings working together. In the end, he told the cadet, it wasn't about being the strongest or the smartest. It was about being together. That's the legacy we pass on to you, not just victory over an enemy, but victory over our own fears and prejudices. Remember that, and you'll never face any challenge alone.